Welcome to the 17th session of Operating System and Linux. I'm Manibhushan D'Souza, and in today's class we are going to discuss about synchronization hardware. The flow of presentation is as follows. First we will see one of the instruction, that is a test and set instruction. Then we will see how to achieve mutual exclusion using test and set instruction. Then we will see something about swap instruction, and then how to achieve mutual exclusion using swap instruction. This will be followed by a discussion on semaphore. We have seen in previous classes that it is possible to have a mutual exclusion and to solve the critical problem. We have seen three different algorithms. These algorithms are complicated not only to understand but even to code. So what is being done in most of the system is that they have provided us with simple hardware instructions which are available in almost all systems that can achieve the mutual exclusion and that can be used to solve the critical problem, a critical section problem. So what we can do is we can use those simple hardware instructions to quickly achieve the mutual exclusion and thereby solving the critical section problem. One of the simplest way to solve the critical solution problem in a uniprocess environment is to disable the interrupt whenever one process enters the critical section. So let's look at this one. So let's consider a process. Let's assume that there is a process, and let's assume that there is a CPU, and this process is executing something, and now at a particular point this process is entering the critical section. By the way, what is the meaning of saying critical section? It is trying to access a shared resource, in particular shared variable. Now what happens in this time is, see, the CPU can be interrupted by other process, either higher priority process, or there can be a hardware interrupt saying that something has happened in the system. Now when there is an interrupt to the CPU will stop your program or the process which is executing, and it will try to go for interrupt service routine, or in particular it is going to swap your process with some other process. Now this happens because you are allowing the CPU to be interrupted. So CPU is doing some work, suddenly a interrupt comes. So you are studying for your examination, suddenly a message comes. What happens? You stop studying, you look at the message. So if the mobile is switched off altogether, what will happen? You won't receive any call or any message. You are going to concentrate on your subject thoroughly. In the same way, what is happening in this case is your process is doing some critical work. In particular, it is performing critical section. So some other process can disturb by performing an interrupt, okay, by interrupting the CPU. If you disable the interrupt, so if you disable any interrupt to the CPU, don't allow anybody to enter. So it is like you've seen this hospital wherein you have this operation theater where nobody is allowed to enter. So if you don't allow any others to disturb the CPU, naturally there only one process will be executed, even though there are many processes which are waiting in the queue. Because they cannot disturb the CPU, only one process will execute, and what you achieve at the end, you achieve mutual exclusion. When one is performing, all the others are waiting. It's as simple as that. Okay. So if you try to do that, what will happen is your program will go for the completion. It will allow to be executed without any preemption. So that is the idea of simply achieving the mutual exclusion. However, this is not going to work in a multiprocessor environment because there will be more than one CPU. So you have to stop all the CPU from getting interrupted. Okay, why? Remember, you may say that what happens? You are working in your CPU. If other CPU is doing the work, what is the problem? You may say that. So let's look at that in very quickly. So suppose you have one process here, okay, and there is one CPU, and this process is performing the critical section. You may say that there is what will happen if you have other process. There is a separate process. Let's assume that this one process is there that is given to the CPU and it is doing something. What is there? What is the problem? Why do you have to interrupt, stop the interruption from the other? Why we have to interrupt is that if this is performing the critical section, what is the meaning of that? It is trying to access a shared memory location. Okay. Now, if there is an interrupt and some other process also goes and then try to change the value, what will happen? You won't achieve the mutual exclusion. What is the meaning of saying mutual exclusion? When one process is doing something, all the others should not go and touch that. So mutual exclusion. You are doing, others are not allowed to do. If others are doing, you are not allowed to do. So that mutual exclusion won't be there. So when you have multiple processes in a multiprocessor environment, trying to disable the interrupt is not going to work because it's going to take a lot of time and the ultimate solution will not be very efficient one because you are disabling the interrupt altogether. Okay, there is a very simple hardware instruction called as a test and set instruction. So this is a simple special hardware instruction that is used to test and modify the content of a particular word. It can also be used to swap the two variable values from one another. So this is called as test and set instruction. So what you are doing, you are testing it and setting it. Two instructions are done. However, these instructions are carried out uninterruptible. What is the meaning of that is they are performed atomically. So testing and setting is done as a single unit. When it is doing test and set, if the hardware is doing that thing, no other process can disturb it. So it will test and set the value in one shot. Others will not be allowed to touch that thing. So this can be used to solve the critical section problem. Okay, so let's look at the particular algorithm, how it is being done. So here we are testing and setting the value. So there will be a target which we want to test. So naturally, is it not? So there will be one target. So let's assume I call this as a target. So this target has to be checked. Remember, this is a Boolean value, so it can take either true or false. It cannot take 10, 15, 90, this kind of value, or ABCD value it can't take because it is a Boolean. Target is a Boolean value, so it can only take either true or false. What you do is, suppose if you say I want to test this target. So you take the target, I want to test this target, I want to know what is the value of what is the value inside this target, whether it is true or false, that I want to do it. So you read it. So you read the value of the target and store it in the return value. So you read the whatever value which is there, I don't know whether it is true or false or anything, you read it, store it in the RV, and finally you return that RV to the calling function. So you return it back. So you get, this is what is called as test. So you are testing whether it is true or false or anything. Suppose if it is true, if this value is true, so what happens, you take the value true, store it in RV and return the value true. So you test and say that the value is true. Suppose this value is false, then you take the value, store it in the return value, return it back, and you get the value as false. So it is simple, either you get true or false, but it's not the end. So this is only testing part. What is the setting part? Setting part is if it is not true, if not true means if it is not set, you set the value. So simple as that. If it is not set, you set the value. If it is already set, no problem at all. So let's assume how the algorithm will work. Suppose if this is true, if the value stored in a target is true, you read the value, you store the value. What is stored in this is a true value. It is true. Okay. Then you set the value to true. It is already true. If you set it to true, it is not going to make any difference. It's already true. Okay. Then you return the value back. So what you get is true. So it was already set. It was already set. You already set. So you set the value. Whether you set it or not, it is not going to work. So it is like you go to the you have this electrical switches are there. So your fan switch, light switches are there. The switch is already on. So I ask you, set and test and set the switch for fan. So you go there, you find that the fan switch is already on. So what you will say, fan switch is already on. Can you switch it on again? It's already on. You can't do it. Okay. Now suppose if the fan switch is off. So I ask you to check whether the fan switch is on. I'm just asking you, okay, switch on the fan. So you go to the switchboard. So you take the value. Fan switch was off. So you set it as off. But what you do then? Here you set this value to true. That means you switch it on. And what answer you are going to give me? The fan was off. That is why I switched it on. So you say false, but then you set it. So if it is not on, you switch it on. If it's already on, then you can't switch it on. So test and set. Test it. If it is false, you set it. If it is true, you have tested it. That's all. Okay. So this is a very simple instruction. You may say that what is so great about that instruction? Great about this instruction is, again I have told you, what is great about this instruction is it is executed in a single shot. Atomically it is executed. So even if you have the values in two different this instruction is executed in two different CPUs, but only one of them will be allowed to do it. So if I ask two of you to switch on the fan, only one of you will be able to switch it on. Other will not be able to do it because it's already on. So it is like when one is doing, others will not be allowed to do it. So mutual exclusion. So that is how we achieve the mutual exclusion. So this instruction will be allowed to execute only by one process, others have to wait for it. So how do I achieve this mutual exclusion? So let's look at this one. So let's assume that we have a lock here. So you know very well the key locks are there. So you have a lock here with the key. So you have this key lock is there. So I am asking you to lock or unlock it. So how do you do it? So assume that it is not locked. So assume that the key is not locked. So you go here, how to set it. So you go here, test and set the lock. So test and set the lock. You go and others may also enter. But what is the condition for the test and set? For the test and set is only one of them will be able to set it. Others have to wait. So simple as that. So you go, suppose you are luckiest one, you go, you set the value, others will wait. Once you come out, what you will do, you will unlock it, then allow the others to go. So you go, if it is unlocked, you lock it, you perform the critical section. When you are coming back, you unlock it so that others can lock it. So when you go, if the key is not locked, you lock it, you perform the critical section. When you come back, you unlock and go. So it is simple as that. So how does this particular thing will work? So you go here, when you come to this point, so you test for the lock. So if it is unlocked, you lock and enter the critical section. If it is already locked, remember this is a dummy loop. So in the last class I've told you. So you will be simply roaming around this while loop, and you can't come out until this lock is set, okay, to false. So simple as that. So if the lock is set to true, so you will be there in this while loop only, you can't enter to the critical section. If it is false, if the lock is false, you enter into the critical section, you perform all the activities of the critical section, and finally you unlock and then walk out to the remaining section. So others who are waiting here, they will get the chance to perform their critical section. Okay, so this is a very simple idea that we can use to perform the mutual exclusion. Now let's look at the other instruction. So this the previous instruction, that is set and test, test and set instruction was used with one variable. Now you can use swap. You know what is swapping? You've done it in your data structures. So at least when you did this sorting algorithms, you know what is the swapping. You interchange the value. So the swap is also same thing. You take two variables, okay, or two words, and you try to interchange their values. Again, these variables are Boolean variables. So it is very simple. The instruction is very simple. You take one value, you take the other value. You know very well how to swap it. You store it in the temporary, set the value of A to B, and take the temporary value and put it into B. So you have done it. So I will not explain much about this swapping. I hope everybody is familiar with the swapping. So you may say that, okay, if all of us are familiar with this swapping, why this has to be done again is because of this. This is executed atomically. This all instructions are executed atomically. The whole thing in one shot it is executed. Nobody can interrupt during the swap operation. So this is again hardware instruction which will not allow anybody to interrupt during its execution. Okay. So using swap also we can achieve mutual exclusion. So how do we achieve this one is we use again a global variable called as lock. If it is lock, you can if it is locked, you can't do anything. If it is unlocked, you can lock it and then perform your work. So if you are going to bathroom, what you do, if the bathroom is already locked, you can't enter. Yes, if the bathroom is not locked, you go enter and then lock so that others can't enter. So it is simple as that. Okay, so this is the same. If you can remember that, it is the end of whatever I am discussing. So it is simple as that. Okay, so let's assume that n number of people are waiting. So many people are waiting here. So what you are going to do? You have a lock, and you, if so, you know, if you happen to live in a hostel, okay, when you are studying, you know very well there will be one or less number of bathrooms are there. Many people morning it is full rush. So if it is locked, you can't do anything. If it is unlocked and if you are waiting, then only you will go. Okay, not that everybody has to wait. So n processes are there here. So if they want, if assume that all the n wants to enter into it, so what they must do, they must wait patiently until the lock is unlocked. If it is unlocked, they can enter it. Okay, so how do I go about it? So in order for me to enter into the critical section, I need a key. Again, it's a Boolean value. So very simple procedure that you can use. Okay, so you can say lock or key, one and the same. So assume that you got the key. Okay, so as long as you got the key, you can interchange the key with the lock. So if you have the key, you can lock it, in other words. Okay, then once you lock it, you can enter into the critical section. If you don't have the lock, if you don't have the key for the lock, you will have to wait until you get the key, enter into the critical section, return the unlock it, so that others can enter. So you know very well, if you go to some places where they lock the toilets and other things, so if you have the key, you can unlock. Then once your work is done, you have to lock and come back. Okay, so it is as simple as that. So let's look at how the things will work. Remember, initially lock is false. So you have this lock. Let's assume that you have this key lock is there with the, so you have this key with the locks are there. So this key with the lock is there. So initially it is unlocked. You got the key. Okay, you got the key. So what you got the key. Okay, you enter into the lock. How do you enter into the lock? You go, okay, and swap the value of the lock. Okay, so when you swap the value with the lock, what will happen? Lock was false initially. Remember, lock was false initially. Key was true. That means the lock now becomes true. So when I say lock now becomes true, means you have locked it. So you have locked it, others can't unlock it. So that's simple as that. So you are locking it, and then you enter into the critical section. Finally, when you complete your work, you unlock it so that others can perform it. So now let's go for the other way around. So other way around is, suppose say when you enter the critical section, the key is already locked. So it is already locked. In that case, what will happen? In that case, you will not be able to come out of this swap because it's already locked. Okay, you cannot change the value. Somebody else is using. You can't enter the critical section unless they allow you to enter. You can't allow. When they unlock it, you can lock and enter. So simple as that. So this is how we can achieve the mutual exclusion. However, the previous algorithm does not satisfy the bounded wait, because you don't know when the others are going to. There are n number of people are waiting. You don't know when is your chance. So if 5 people are waiting, what do you expect? Sixth one is you. Okay. If you really don't know after 5 whether you get it or not, what is the point in waiting? So you know, when you go to movie theater, and if 4 people are there in front of you, expect the 5th one you are going to get the ticket. But if you are not very sure that whether you get the ticket today or not, what is the point in staying there? So there must be a bounded wait. I have already told you about the bounded wait. There must be a limit. How long I am going to wait? Now remember, in the previous case, what happens is there is no point in knowing, even though n people are waiting there, when your chance will come. So that is called as unbounded. So let's look at how to achieve this mutual exclusion in this one. Okay, this is a bit complicated algorithm, but it is very simple. So you have n processor waiting and you want to enter. So UR is the ith number. You are the ith person who want to enter it. So you are waiting and you have the key. So 2 are also there. You are waiting and you have the key. That means you can enter. Okay. So let's look at that. So let's assume that you are waiting. This is true and key is true. So if you are waiting and your key is true, then what you will do? So look at this whole thing. This is one block. This is the while loop. So this whole thing is a while loop. So even though flower brackets are not, you know very well, flower brackets are not really required. So this is a while loop. So your waiting is true and key is true. So you enter here. Okay, then you try to set the lock. Okay, so what is a try and test? If the lock is initially false, what is the answer you are going to get? When you try to lock it, the key becomes false. Yes, the key becomes false, you know very well, and lock becomes true. Hope if you don't follow it, watch my go back and watch it again how I have explained the test and set the value. So the lock becomes true, and its value, the previous value, will be given to key. So key becomes false. So one, this is true, this one is false. While loop breaks, and you are in the critical section. You will come out to the critical section. Okay, you set the value false. That is just to make you are not waiting. Just to say that you are not waiting. You are in the critical section. Now let's look at a scenario. One other scenario. You have lock is already true. In that case, what is going to happen? So you come here. You are waiting is true. Waiting is true. Key is true. You come here, test for the lock. So what is the value you are going to test? Lock is already true. So value of key is true. Okay. So key is true. Waiting is true. You again come here. If the lock is true, key is true, waiting is true. You come here. So you keep on rotating it on and on and on and on until somebody set the lock as false. So you will be busy waiting for the lock. Okay, so simple as that. So if it is already locked, this key will be always true, and somebody else has to unlock it. So you go and perform the critical section. Suppose if it is unlocked, then you perform the critical section. You lock and perform the critical section. Once you come out of the bathroom, what you are supposed to do? You have to give the key to the others. So how do you go for that? So you find whoever is next in the row who is waiting. Okay. So if somebody is waiting, whoever is the next person who is waiting, then set the lock for them. Okay. Otherwise, you set it as false. If it is you set it as false. So this is simple as that. So when you come out of the critical section, remember this is the same as circular queue. So if you are here, j plus 1, I plus 1 will be the next one. Okay. If you are here, last one, j plus 1 will take you back to the next one. That is why this is divided by n. If there are n number of elements are there, so you are getting it back. Hope you have studied about circular queues, how to get the pointer to the first row. So if you are not so if j is not equal to I, and if it is not waiting, you keep on rotating. So suppose you are here, okay, you go to the next one and ask, are you waiting? He says, no, I am not waiting. You go to the next person, are you waiting? He says, no, I am not waiting. Forget it. You go here and ask, are you waiting? Yes. Then come out. Okay. So you set the lock false. Okay. If if nobody is waiting, so it is not, you don't set the thing one. So if nobody is waiting, then you set which one? You set yourself as false. You unlock it and go. Okay. If I is equal to j, that means you rotated. You came back to yourself and nobody is there. You set you unset the lock and go. However, if you find somebody who is waiting and you ask them to enter into the critical section, so make waiting is false. What is the meaning of saying waiting is false? So other person was waiting. You go ask first the next person, are you waiting? The person says, no, I am not waiting. Forget. You go to the next person, are you waiting? No, I am not waiting. You go to one person, is, no, I was waiting from that time. Okay, don't wait now, enter into the critical section. So you leave, in other words, you give it to the others. So how many you will go? Maximum is n. Okay. So if you are here, If you are waiting, your chance will come after nth turn. So that is, there is a bound on how long you are going to get it. Okay, so this is a mutual exclusion. We know very well the solution is mutual exclusion, because you know very well waiting is false or key is false, then only you can enter it. Okay, if remember, if you are waiting, then you can't go to the critical section. If you are not waiting, that means you can enter. You are entering, that is why you are not waiting. You are waiting means you can't. So if you are not waiting, as well as you have the key, your key is false, then you can enter. Key is means it is unlocked. If it is unlocked, you can enter it. Okay, the same thing is true. It is mutual exclusion, because you know very well one of them will be allowed to say that you are not waiting, all the others will wait. Whoever, so once your critical section is over, you go to the next one and ask, next one and ask, and so on. Whoever you, whom you meet for the first time, whoever comes first, who says I want to go into critical section, only that process is given the chance to enter into critical section. Others will not be allowed. So at a time only one will be there, and the last one I have already told you. So there will be bound, because you will at most you will wait for nth turn, and then you will be given a chance. So you keep on searching from your position, +1 +2 +3 and so on. So you go around the queue. So if you are here, you go on asking everybody. If it is not there, you come to the beginning and then ask the one. So at most, if there are n numbers are there, your chance will come at the nth round. It's going to come. So that means there is a bound on waiting. Okay, so within n minus 1 turn, so if you take 0, you are going to get your turn. So that is why it is called as bounded waiting. Okay, however, this particular, even though when I tell you it is very simple, you can understand, but it is not true in terms of the implementation. It is not a trivial task for implementing such a thing. Now let's look at what is feasible, or what can be achieved in real life. So in real life, what is achieved is a semaphore. So semaphore is a tool that can be used to achieve the mutual exclusion. Okay, it removes the busy wait process. Now what is this busy wait process is, see, when the process is locked, you go and test whether it is locked or not. See, when you if you are in the hostel, if the bathroom is already locked, you don't go every now and then and ask, hey, is it over? No. Is it over? You don't do it. So when you find that somebody is already locked, and you know that 10 minutes they are going to take it, so you don't bother for 10 minutes. After that, you go here. Whereas in our previous session, if you notice that the while loop will continuously execute, and it will simply take a CPU cycle. Remember, while loop simply goes, I think I've already shown you somewhere. I have shown you, like, while loop will go and on and on and on. Now this on and on and on, whatever, when I say, you may not make you didn't get that thing, but it is executing the CPU. It is executing some instruction. That means it is eating up some CPU cycles, which is not really required. So this is called as busy wait. You keep the CPU busy while you are waiting. It's not really required, is it not? So you are waiting means, do you have to go and eat up the CPU cycle? Because CPU is a very crucial and very important resource. You simply go and ask the CPU, is it over? The CPU say, no, it is not over. Okay, I will come again. Again after one cycle, again you come, is it over? No, CPU say it is not. Simply you are eating the CPU cycle. So CPU can do something else rather than giving you the same result. Okay, so this is something that you can avoid with the semaphore. So what is semaphore? Semaphore is an integer variable. Remember that it is just an integer variable. So apart from the initialization, its value can be changed using two atomic operations, and these operations are wait and signal. So there are only two operations that can be performed on this integer variable. So one is the wait, other one is the signal. And remember, these are atomic operations. So if you are calling Wait, that means wait will complete. When the wait is being performed, others cannot go and disturb the process. Similarly, when you say signal, signal will go for the completion, then only other instructions will be performed. So it's a integer variable. Once it gets initialized, you can go and set the value, change its value by using only two functions or two operations. One is wait and the signal. Generally, these two operations are denoted by P and V. So P means proberen. Okay, I think I pronounced it properly. This is in Dutch, so I don't know Dutch. So okay, so the V means verhogen. So verhogen and proberen. Okay, hope the pronunciation is proper because I don't know French. That is why that P and V words have come. If you want to know why that P and why not W and S, W and S is in English, but this story was done in French. So they have used their words P and V. Okay, so let's look at these operations. What is P and what is V? So first one, wait. What is the wait operation? So wait on S means what it's going to do. So S is an integer variable. By the way, again note S, whatever you said, S is an integer variable. So integers can take 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and so on. The integer can also take -1, -2, -3 and so on and so forth. So what this wait is doing, suppose the value stored here is 5. What this wait will do? So is S less than 0? No, S is not less than 0. This is false. So it will go S minus minus. So it's going to reduce it to 4. Again, if you call wait S, again it will come here. Is let's say, okay, I will rewrite. So you have this S here. My value of S not TS, S here, the value of S was 4 now. So you go here 4, 4 is not less than 0. So reduce it to 3. Again call wait, 3 is not less than 0, forget it, reduce S minus minus means reduce it, so it is 2. Again call wait, 2 is not less than 0, you get the value of S as 1. Again call, 1 is not less than 0, okay, so reduce it 0. So S now becomes 0. So every time when you call wait S, if S is a positive number, you keep on reducing. So S was 5, then you made to 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Now you are in the 0. So you are in 0 now. When you are in 0, what happens? Is S 0? 0 is equal to 0. In that case, you are here. Waiting. Okay. So unless unless somebody magically comes and set the value of N to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or anything, you cannot go. Why you cannot go to the other step? You cannot go to the other step because you are stuck in this while loop. Remember, this is while loop, this is a dummy while loop. So this is just a dummy while loop. So it's a dummy while loop and you are stuck in this dummy while loop until somebody sets the value of S to 5, 4, 3, 2 or any positive number. You cannot decrement it. So if in other words, if S value is negative, then you have to S value is 0 or negative, you will wait. If S value is positive, then you will not wait, but you will reduce the value. So simple as that. So you are waiting when you are waiting. You are waiting when S is either 0 or negative. Otherwise, you don't wait. So what about signal? Signal is very simple. You just increment it. Whether it is 0, whether it is minus, whether it is positive, you simply increment the value. So when you signal it, you don't wait. So signal is very simple. When you signal it, you just increase the value. But when you are waiting it, what you have to do? If it is a positive number, you don't wait. If it's a negative number, you will have to wait it. Okay. What is so special about the semaphore? these operations are performed in atomic manner, that means indivisibly. So what is the meaning saying indivisibly? You are not going to disturb, or anybody is not going to disturb the CPU when these operations are performed. So when one process is doing this operation, the others will not be allowed to perform the same. So this includes changing the value, testing the value of the yes, as well as reducing the value yes. There is no interrupt during this one. That's all in this class. Thank you for your interest. We will meet again in the other class. Thank you.